I get it. I get it. This entire franchise is just trolling us viewers. It's supposed to be an experience not unlike purgatory, right? Right? So Hellraiser Hellseeker tells the story of a detective searching for his missing wife while hellish nightmares begin to plague his life. Welcome back everybody to the Hellraiser review series, and now we are on Hellraiser 6, also known as Hellraiser Hellseeker. The second of this franchise to go direct to video, and the second of this franchise to be a script that was not intended for a Hellraiser movie, but was shoehorned into this franchise. And I was a little curious about this one walking into it, because I knew walking in that this was the last time we got to see Kirsty Cotton as a character. I wasn't sure what utilization she was going to have in this movie, but nonetheless, the fact that the main star, the main final girl of the franchise decides to come back, and this is the last time that Clive Barker was credited with any credit whatsoever towards the story, that I thought there might be a sliver of hope that this would be better than the previous couple. So was it better than the previous couple? Let's talk about the positives. So the main positive that I will say is that it is cool to see Kirsty Cotton back again. Ashley Lawrence is really good in this role. I think that they do an interesting enough thing with her character that I'll talk a little bit more on later on in this video, but seeing her back since the second movie, aside from a small little blink and you'll miss it cameo in the third film, was a cool little addition. It kind of felt like it was going back to its roots to a certain extent. And the fact that Clive Barker had a few notes to give them on the story certainly made her inclusion feel like it was somewhat tied to the first couple of films, to where the previous film, Inferno, felt like it was completely removed. This one, you could argue, feels natural to a degree within the canon timeline of the first couple Hellraiser films, and it is because of her inclusion. You don't get to see a whole lot of her. She basically bookends the film, where it starts with her and the main character and it ends with her and the main character, but for the story framing device of having her character be that role, I thought it was okay. And unfortunately, my final positive of Hellraiser Hellseeker, just like the previous review, very shallow surface level positive, but I like Dean Winters as an actor. I think that he's much more tolerable as the protagonist here than the previous guy. And for sure, as a fan of Rescue Me, just like when I saw Uncle Teddy pop up in Halloween Kills, it's always cool to see characters from a show that I love pop up in something else. So he eventually turned into the guy you see in all the Mayhem commercials, where he's busting into windows or jumping in front of cars and all of that. So this movie didn't exactly propel him into the A-list by any means, but I can tolerate him much more in the role of seedy detective who's obviously a dickhead than the last guy in Inferno. Now moving on to the negatives, and if you haven't noticed that I've referenced very directly the character of Inferno twice in the first couple of minutes, it's because this movie is essentially beat for beat a retread of what that movie was trying to do. You get a detective that's searching for answers in this investigation, things start to become more nightmarish, more hellish, and then we're left with a conclusion that is extremely similar to Inferno and just as predictable. So back to back, having these movies right next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, does Hellseeker absolutely no favors. Now, I'll be honest with you, if Hellseeker came earlier in this timeline, if I had watched that movie first, I would probably tell you that it's the better of the two, just because of the story direction and because of the framing device of Kirsty Cotton's character. I think it feels a little more natural as a Hellraiser movie than Inferno did. Inferno certainly has the better visuals and has the better atmosphere and has more creativity to it, but since this comes second, it just feels like, once again, they're like, I don't know, try that again. I have no idea what to do with this character. I have no idea what to do with this franchise. Just do that detective shit again and put Pinhead in a couple of pages and put it out. Just do it. Just get it out of here. And so you're left with a movie that just feels like it has no creative drive whatsoever. It has no inspiration. It has no clout to it, certainly. I mean, it's a movie where you feel like everybody involved didn't give a shit. They just wanted to throw out another Hellraiser movie to make a quick profit, and if the filmmakers themselves didn't give a shit, why should I? I mean, you can just go down the list with everything I'm about to tell you. Another unlikable protagonist. He's more tolerable for me because I like the actor that's portraying him, and I don't think that he's anywhere near as just visually unlikable as the protagonist in Inferno, but you can tell from the beginning, and they certainly reinforce it numerous times throughout this movie, that this guy's a scumbag. I mean, he's married to Kirsty. She disappears in the opening act of the film. That's the whole catalyst of this story, is that they get into this wreck, she disappears completely, and he immediately just goes back to work. I was in a almost fatal car wreck to where my wife, that I'm supposed to at least act like I love, is completely missing, could be dead, could be just dying in a ditch somewhere. And fuck it, I'm just gonna go back to work and finish my shift. And all throughout this movie, this guy is swatting away pussy like Justin Timberlake at a 90s con. It's like the most repetitive story device, to where he goes to a place, he goes to work, his boss wants to fuck him. He goes home, his neighbor wants to fuck him. He goes to get a gallon of milk, and the fucking person behind the register wants to blow him. And it's just like, god damn, how many pieces of ass is this guy just swatting away on a daily basis?
I did it. Well, what do you think?
It's to the point where it feels like almost this was written as a porn version of Hellraiser, and then they just decided that this story was actually too good for porn, so they handed it in to be an actual Hellraiser movie. At least I hope that's the secret origins for the script of this film, because that's a much funnier story and has a little bit more of an interesting legacy to it, versus this just having the same exact setup as Inferno, to where there was this dusty ass script sitting on some producer's desk. They had to swipe a bunch of papers out of the way and pull it up and blow the dust off and say, you know what? This is a bullshit ass detective story that has absolutely nothing unique about it. So let's just throw Pinhead in a couple pages, make it a Hellraiser movie, and hopefully nobody will notice. Well, it's pretty goddamn hard not to notice when it's the exact same script as Inferno. I think he picked up the same fucking envelope twice, and it was so unmemorable, he didn't even catch it until the movie came out. Once again, this feels like it should be a Jacob's Ladder sequel or a Jacob's Ladder remake. From the visuals, to the setup, to the ending, it just has nothing to do with what Hellraiser was about or ever should be about. It's a guy that's in some kind of purgatory that you find out by the end is in hell being punished for something, and oh my god, didn't we surprise you? No, bitch, you didn't. I mean, all throughout the movie, they keep hammering home to an agonizing degree that this guy fucks everything with a heartbeat. And being that we had the origin of the beginning of this movie that we did, to where Kirsty dies possibly or disappears in a car crash, and you know damn well they're not going to bring back Ashley Lawrence for one tiny little scene at the beginning that's completely irrelevant to her character, it's obvious within 15 minutes where this movie is heading, especially when you just watched Inferno, because you're going through the same beats and you're like, I wonder if he's in hell right now. I wonder if he's in purgatory, and when Pinhead shows up, you're going to get a big-ass scene of exposition about, this is your torment. And even visually, they go for the same thing, to where he walks into this room, a bunch of fucking chains come out and hold him down in Hellraiser fashion, while Pinhead shows up out of thin air, tells him all of his sins, and says, ha! You're in hell, bitch. Now let's restart this whole thing again, because you're not getting loose. The only extra element that they change here is giving the Kirsty Cotton motivation for putting him there, which, like I said in the beginning, is the one element of this movie that I thought was actually pretty cool, pretty clever, is that the protagonist from the first two films is now a murderer, and she gets tricked into opening up the lament configuration once again, and once again makes a deal with Pinhead that she's going to give him 5 souls in exchange for her own, and all of those souls are the lovers that her husband has had, the partner that was scheming with him to kill her and take all of her money, and finally, her husband. I like that storyline, but that storyline would work so much better if she was the star of the movie and it was the focus of her and her descent into madness, finally, after all these crazy hellish events she's been through for years. That would have made for a compelling Hellraiser sequel. But trying to frame it as this secret little twist ending that is so blatantly fucking obvious, it's a giant waste. It's a waste of her, and it's a waste of that really good idea that feels at home in the Hellraiser franchise. It's unfortunate that I gotta be so negative on these movies. I knew walking into it that was probably going to be the outcome, but I wish there was more redeeming factors that I could find in these movies thus far. But it's just, it's tired. It's a franchise that just shit out lazy, uninspired sequel over and over and over again, and we still got like 4 or 5 more to go, guys. So, can we get a movie that has some redeeming factors before I get to the end of this franchise? Please, just one. So all in all, guys, if you didn't like Hellraiser Inferno, most likely you're not going to like this one. I could see fans comparing the two and having two different camps where one prefers the style and the creativity and the visuals of Inferno, while others prefer the story and the inclusion of Kirsty Cotton and Hellseeker, but neither one of them are really all that worth your time. They're not offensive, they're not movies that are gonna piss you off if you're a Hellraiser fan, but there's just not really anything here to merit 90 minutes of your time. So once again, if you're a Hellraiser fan, just revisit some of the early films and don't bother with this one, because even though it brings back a legacy character, it doesn't really add much to her legacy. So go ahead and skip it. So what do you guys think of Hellraiser Hellseeker? Are you a fan of this one? And let me know down below, what do you prefer, Hellraiser Inferno or Hellraiser Hellseeker, and let me know why. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you are a Hellraiser fan. I'm sorry that I'm running out of positive things to say in this franchise. Hopefully that'll turn around soon, but it just is what it is. The Hellraiser franchise is known for this, and unfortunately it's all coming to fruition for me. So thank you for watching, as always, guys, but remember, opinions are like assholes. That doesn't mean that you have to be.